Alright everybody, so tag along with me today. So we're going to be replacing the drive motor on our 2318G Rockwood travel trailer, pop-up tent trailer, whatever they're calling it now, pop-up camper tent trailer. We did buy this used as is, and for the first several trips we didn't have any problems, but then what we started having was the drive gear, the sprocket on the motor would slip off the end of the shaft, which obviously then renders the lift system pretty useless. It never had any issues with it collapsing. The safety mechanism there and everything worked just fine. But it obviously made a big problem for opening and closing the camper. So what we're going to start with doing here is taking off this plastic housing. There's a little circle right here. I'll try to put an arrow. And you can actually pop that off, and that's how I was able to access it in the past. So you can reach right in there. We're going to take this plastic cover off and kind of put it out of the way. The control switch is on it, and I didn't want to take that off, so I was trying to find a good spot for that just to live without putting too much tension on the wires. Here's the relay system for it. I went ahead and disconnected the neutral coming from the battery, or I guess going to the battery, to prevent any accidental operations. And just push that there out of the way. I got this motor from Hannah RV. I'll try to put a screenshot here, we'll see, of it. And right here I'm just going to double check the sticker before I take anything out. Make sure all the numbers match up, make sure everything looks good, and then just kind of compare them overall before I start taking things apart. Important to note here, I do have the camper top down and it is latched, so there's no tension on the line right now. It is all the way down all the way down closed, so that way we don't have to worry about the cable holding it up here. I was originally going to try to mark the gears to see where they were so I could put them back where they belong, but realized that the way they're all set up I wouldn't be able to actually reach in there and mark them, so I gave up on that part. Went ahead and started taking out these two bolts that hold the motor onto the housing, or the assembly there. I do have a ratchet and wrench, a closed-end wrench back here. Those things are lifesavers if you don't have them. I used to think they were a scam or a gimmick, but now that I have a small set, they're fantastic. I almost wish I had the ones that are that bend as well. They're articulate at the head there too. That's a different brand. Now I started having second thoughts here. You'll see the gears move just a little bit when I take this motor out. And I was pretty worried that the cable itself was under tension. We ended up doing okay. My thought here was that if something happened I'd be able to hold it with the wrench. Again, the top is down, so I'm not trying to hold it with any real weight, but this isn't probably a good idea either if you're going to do this yourself. It ended up not moving very much. It did spin just a tiny bit, but it ended up working out okay. I do believe this motor is original to the camper. I don't really understand what failed here. Later on, I think I try to get a shot of the two side by side, and if not, I'll try to insert a picture, but you can see the gear assembly at the end of the shaft of the motor, and there's a nut on the end, but that is for either a socket, driver, or the crank that comes with it to spin it. And that's not actually holding anything on. That retaining clip is holding the nut on, but it's not holding the whole assembly onto the shaft either. The one that's on there maybe used to have a set screw or something inside. I'm not really sure. The new one does appear to have a set screw inside the gear and the shaft, and I'm hoping that's going to do it. I was thinking about trying to just do a tack weld or something on the old one, but we decided for peace of mind we'll just replace the entire assembly. there are just two spade bits, or spade connectors, that hold the motor connections onto that relay board. So I just use some needle nose pliers to pull them off. And then do the reverse here with the new one. Make sure you keep track of which way is which. You're going to end up closing it while you're trying to open it, and opening it while you're trying to close it. I, of course, dropped the bolt the first time. So here I am again. For some reason, this was very challenging to get to line up. I'm not really sure. Maybe just the way that those holes are bored through the bracket there. The gear being there, just everything else, I don't really know. So I decided to switch it here. I think both of those bolts are the same size. Not really sure it matters which way. But this one ended up being easier for me. This is the way the old one was installed, the wires on top. I think if I do it again, I would probably do it to the bottom. It ended up being a lot of cabling up here at the top of this whole assembly with the cover on top. It probably would have been easier to fit everything if the cables pointed down, but I wanted to make sure I put it back exactly as it was to avoid any issues. This didn't come with any type of owner's manual or anything, or installation guide. So I'm just putting these on finger tight first. I made sure the gears meshed up, and then I come back in here with the wrench and just crank it down a little bit. I did not use Loctite. I considered it. We'll check on it again in a couple trips to make sure everything is still tight. If we have any issues, I'll probably pull them out and put some Loctite on. But I don't have any torque specs for this. I just kind of cranked it down until it felt tight, but not too tight. Those bolts thread into the housing of the actual motor there. And so you want to be careful not to strip those out, or you're going to have a real problem on your hands. From here, it's just reconnecting the wires, give it a little test, and put everything back together. So right here, I'm trying to figure out if I'm missing a mounting point for this relay board. I was trying to feel around also to make sure I'm not pinching anything or anything like that. But in the diagrams, this relay board attaches somewhere onto this assembly, so it's not just dangling. But on mine, as long as I've had it, it's just kind of sitting around there, hanging out in that cavity. So I never did find a good spot for it, so it's still there. But that's what we're trying to find here. Now that things are all hooked up, I'm going to give it a dry fit. Make sure everything will fit in place. And this is where I was talking about there's a lot of extra wires. I did end up taking that wire loom on the side there and trying to feed some of these additional ones into it just to keep them out of the way of the gears. The high-low limiting switch is right below the motor. Those gears are on the right-hand side, the driver's side, if you will, of the vehicle. And there's also the clutch and the safety mechanism right behind that. So I definitely don't want any of these wires getting caught up into those gears, getting chewed up. I'm going to have it do a couple tests just to make sure everything's functional and sounds good. And I have to say, the new motor at least is incredibly loud. I didn't get a reading on it, but it's well over 70 decibels. Probably in the 80 range. Incredibly loud, even inside the house. Sounds like running a gas-powered leaf blower right outside the front door. It is shocking how loud it is. but it's also screaming fast. It's going at 6,000 RPM moving that gear. And it's geared, the gear ratio is so that it'll work even faster. So there's a lot going on there, but it is not quiet. Everyone is going to hear you working this thing. So here I am trying to shove that relay chip into an open spot, and considering all the options, I'm still not a fan of it being there. We have taken it out a couple times since I filmed this. We didn't have any issues with, it shorting out or arcing or anything, but I do need to find a better way to do this to keep it up out of the road grime and to just protect it some more. I don't like that it's just flopping around inside there. But that is just the way it came. So it worked for 3 years. It'll hopefully keep working for a little bit longer. And here I am undoing that tape, put the wires in that loom to try to protect them some more. I didn't like the fact that they're just loose, that yellow and white wire. They run the same-ish area as the ones that are in that protector, so I want to just make sure that nobody gets snagged up in those gears on the side and causing any big problems. Not really sure it's necessary, but I went ahead and did it anyway for peace of mind. This is what I was talking about before, about how there's just a lot of wires running in that top right side where the motor wires come out, the control wires come out, the switch wires come out. If I had done it before, or differently, I might have tried to spin the motor 180 degrees so the wires come out the bottom, like I said, and see if that resolves this issue. I'm not really sure. And adding that wire loom right there might be causing a problem too. Eventually it works well enough. I took a look. It doesn't look like that we're pinching anything or pushing anything anywhere it shouldn't be. But it definitely is a snug fit. So there are 4 self-tapping screws that hold this cover, this lid, onto the tongue of the camper. I'm using the drill here. I'm probably going to replace them. They're sort of being worn out already from the amount of times it's been open and closed. A couple of them are, at least. I was trying to think of some system I could use that I could make this come off with relative ease without undoing screws. Hopefully I won't have to open this again for a long time, and it won't be an issue. but that is something to keep in mind as well. They are self-tapping, so you don't want to do this too many times, or you might end up stripping out the holes there in the tongue. Otherwise, that's it, everyone. Thanks for tagging along, and thanks for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this.